Welcome, everyone. We are now going to do the second. We're going to continue. It's Thursday night. We're going to continue the class we started last week called A Bucket of Infinity. We were learning the significance of Rivka, drawing a bucket of water and then pouring to Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, the servant of Abraham. She pours him. He asks her, pour me a little bit water of your bucket so I can drink, and also to my camels I will give to drink. So it's a nice story about Eliezer being able to do that as a sign to see if she was a kind girl and if she can come into Abraham's house to be his daughter-in-law. However, here we're learning the cosmic significance of it. What does it mean in the realm of divinity? So we find out that this whole drawing of the water we learned last week is the drawing of the Torah, which is divine wisdom, to our reality. And we know that the Torah has two parts to it. I'm not going to, by the way, I would highly suggest, unless you're listening live to this class right now, so you're joining us today if you didn't join us last week. But if you're not listening live and you're coming to this class, I would highly suggest to listen to part number 1 before you listen to part number 2, because I'm not planning to do much of a review because I really want to complete. But just the shortest so that we can kind of hop on to where we're holding. Last week we were learning that the Torah goes through in order for the Torah to emerge, Torah which is utterly infinite and beyond, it is rooted in the very quintessential wisdom of God. That means the wisdom of Hashem as of God, as it is beyond a revealed intelligence, even an attribute of intelligence in the world of Atzilus. That's already a revealed intelligence. That would be equivalent to a person's revealed intelligence. But the Torah, in its essence, emanates from a much deeper place, just like our revealed intelligence of our mind comes from the pre-intellect, called Chachmas Setuma, the concealed intellect. That's the intelligence of the soul itself, not the manifestation of intelligence as it manifests and expresses itself into revealed ideas that emerge in our brain. But before our brain, in the pre-intelligence, when the power of intelligence is still one with the very greater boundless soul, from where all intelligence comes from, that's called Chachmas Tima. In the human being, it's called Kayach HaMaskil, the power not of Seichel, the power from where all Seichel, from where all intelligence comes from. And in God, it's called Chachmas Tima, which Chachmas Tima is the Chachma, it's the wisdom of Erech Anpin. Erech Anpin is Keter, the crown. It's still on the level of Keter, which is the pre-expressed godliness, the pre-sphirot, which really is still Ein Sof. It's literally infinite. That's where Torah comes from. However, in order for the Torah to emerge, and when we say the Torah, we mean the written Torah. And when we say the written Torah, we include in it the entire Torah scroll, including the letters, and including, before the letters, as we discussed, there are crowns on the letters. And before the crowns on the letters, there are vowels, nikudot, which are like the kamatz, the patach, the chirik, the tzere. These are the various different pronunciations, symbols of pronunciations. They're just sounds but not a letter, which makes them far less definitive. They're still just a sound. It can be any. If a person makes a sound, you don't know what the sound really expresses until you say sit down. You're shouting. You're making a noise. What's bothering you? And then they can finally. They have to limit it and put it into individual sentences to bring it down. First, there is just a sound. So the sound is higher even than the crowns. And prior to that, there is a song. And that's the trup. So when we look at the Torah, we think that these are nice little gadgets or little cute little things that are decorations of the Torah. But it's really totally the opposite. The Torah is emerging first as a song. Its first revelation is an expression of divine pleasure, a pure song. And from the song, it descends into a sound, into a noticeable nekuda, into a point. When it's a song, it's just it's nuances of pleasure, which is utterly infinite. And then once it comes into a sound, from the sound it comes into a design of a crown, which is the subtle beginning of letters, but not yet letters. Finally, it shapes itself and formulates itself into letters. And then the letters converge into words, and we can only begin to read the Torah when we access the Torah, which means our legible relationship with the Torah is the storyline of the Torah, which means the letters as they make up sentences. We don't even, as we discussed last week, we don't even read the letters themselves. We can read technically the letters, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, but we don't understand the meaning in these letters. As he says in the Maimer, that in every letter of Torah, it's the energy, it's the power, it's the force, it's the platform, if you might say, for myriads of worlds. 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 We're just, the entire physical world is just one world. with all the boundless galaxies and the universe, the vastness, it's only one world. And in all these letters of the Torah are hinged myriads of, hundreds of thousands of worlds. So do we understand the letter? Do we know what a letter is? We don't even begin to fathom the letter. But the letter is only the fact that it emerges in a letter, that's a tremendous limitation that the letter can be visible to us. So we can't understand the shape of the letter, but we can at least read the letter and see the letter, although we have absolutely no clue what it means. But when the letter is still pre-letter, when the letter is still a crown, a little sign means it's only like, God is not even, it's too deep to be expressed in a letter. It can only comes in crown-like symbols. It's pre-expression of a letter even, of a design. A design is more of a format. A design is more of a definition. This is before those that just little, like a person just being able to make tiny little dots even before they can even define the art into a full picture. Just a jotting down what they're experiencing. Just tiny little symbols. And before that, it's just sounds. And again, each level is so much richer and deeper and higher. And before that, it's a song. But this is crazy. Even the song of Torah is already part of the revealed Torah. Not revealed to us, but it's part of the revealed Torah. It's already being read above the parchment. But then there is the plain, simple white parchment, from where all of this comes from, if you might say. So where is that? That is the hidden wisdom, the hidden intelligence that's part of the Keser, that's before all these levels. And in order for all these levels to emerge, this is crazy. In order for including the song, it can only drop from the pre-intelligence into the realm of revelation through tiny little hair that comes from God's pre-intelligence. Cyrus, hair. For Chachma Stima, for the concealed Chachma, to communicate with Chachma d'Atzilus, with the realm of wisdom of the world of Atzilus, it's through tiny passageways of hair, which was we discussed last week. A hair is so insignificant. And that's why it says, when God gives the Torah, it says, V'zarach, he emerged Miseir, from a hair. Seir is the land of Seir, but Seir also means from a hair. God squeezes himself through a tiny little hair, and only then can his unfathomable, unknowable, infinite, essential wisdom even become the source of those letters that we spoke about. The hair drop. And remember, we learned last week, just another interesting idea was that just to understand how much the reduction is, how much can go into the hair compared to what's above the hair. Okay? Only a tiny little droplet is going in the air. Like, imagine an ocean and just a little one drop of the ocean. is diluted and goes into the hair. That's all. That's all. And that becomes the source. On the other side of the hair, once it passes the tube, it becomes the source for the entire Torah Shebiksav, for the letters, for the song, the nekudot, the sounds, the crowns, and finally the letters. And remember what we said earlier, that every letter is a source for billions of worlds, and we're not even reading the letters. We're only understanding and comprehending a little bit of the combination of the words, the sentences, kind of a storyline. That's what we're reading. The code that's in the letters. But all of this is from one tiny drop. So he said like this, in Chachma Stima, in the hidden Chachma, the numbers that are associated with that level is either 10,000, means 5 digits, or 1,000, 4 digits, or 100, sometimes depending. But the amount that goes into Chachma is only Yud. What's Yud? Yud is 10. 10 is double digits, which means that you realize that to go from 2 digits to 3 digits is an enormous elevation. Go from 3 digits to 4 digits is another exponential growth. And from 4 digits to 5 digits, of course, is each extra digit that you're adding is taking you into a complete different realm. So in order to express how little of the Keter light, of the true infinity, which is 5 digits, how much it diminished for it to go into the hair, to pat, again, when it's going into the hair, it's still above the revealed Torah. It's still pre-Torah, it's pre-intelligence. It's making its way through the hair. What goes in? Se'er Yud. It's a hair from the Yud. The Yud is only 2 digits. It's so diminished to become a source for the written Torah. And that's the reason we also learned that Rivka, and we're soon going to see, what's crazy over here is you find out who Rivka is. This is like so crazy. But this explains what it says, that Rivka descended, Vatered ha'ena, that Rivka went down to the ayin, she went down to the spring. What does that mean? The spring is that Chachma Stima. The hidden Chachma is called the spring, because that's where all water comes from. It's the fountainhead of all intelligence. Water is intelligence. It's the very, very super source, super infinite, beyond expressed source. It's not even expressed in divine intelligence. It's pre-divine intelligence. It's the source for divine intelligence. Rivka goes down there and she pulls a bucket out. Kada. What is the kad? Kad is 24 books of Torah. She pulls the words out. She pulls out a bucket. Imagine taking, as he says in the Mimer, that's why I call the class a bucket of infinity. You're only having a bucket, but it's coming from the infinite light. And in that bucket, that's the entire Torah. But then we learned, follow. Then we learned the Torah itself, whatever is in that bucket is still so divine. It is so divine that we still don't have any. It's like the revelation of God's intelligence in God's revealed mind as opposed to the pre-revealed. But it's still on the level of divine. In order for it to come down to us, it needs to be again diluted with an enormous dilution and come down into Torah Sheba'al Peh, which means to come from Chachma to Malchut. Because Malchus, the lowest sphera of Atzilus, that's the source of the worlds, of the finite creations. It's Malchus is the mother of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. So the first diminishment, the first drop, is from Orein Sof, from Keser to Chachma. That's where the bucket comes in. One bucket full. But then the Eved Eliezer, who is the servant. Servant is Malchut. Malchut, the attribute of kingship, is called the servant of Chachma. That's why, how does he refer to Eliezer? We learned last week that Avram says, La'avdoi, to the Eved, Zekan Beisai, the elder of his house. Hamoshel b'chol asheloi, who rules over everything that Avram has. So the simple meaning is that Eliezer, he's Abraham's servant. He's Zekan Beisai, he was the elder of all. Abraham had a lot of students. He was the most senior student and the most senior administrator of Avram's household. And that's why he was the ruler. Everything that went in Abraham's house and Avram's house was all administrated by Eliezer. He was the top manager. Okay, he was the chief of staff in Avram's house. That's the simple meaning. What's the deeper meaning? The word Zekan Beisai is not referring to Eliezer. He is the Eved. Eliezer now is Malchut. He's the element of kingship. He is the servant of Zekan Beisai. He is the servant of Chachmah. Because Chachmah is the highest sphere of Atzilus. I'll give you an example. Our mouth. Malchus is the mouth. In a human being, our mouth. Our mouth is a servant to who? To our intelligence. What does your mouth do? It serves the intelligence. Wherever the intelligence wants, the mouth immediately obeys. Which means the intelligence says, say that, the mouth says it. It doesn't even argue. The mouth is always ready to articulate whatever the mind delivers to the mouth and says, speak. So the mouth talks. So the mouth is a servant to the intelligence. That's the meaning that Malchus is a servant to Chachmah. It's way, way, way inferior to Chachmah. So Eliezer, he's Avdoi. Who is he Eved to? Zekan Beisai, to the elder of the house, which is Chachmah. But on the other hand, who is Eliezer? Hamoshel, he is the ruler for all the lower worlds. Because Malchus kalelamim. What element is the king over all the worlds? Who directs the affairs of the finite realms? Not Chachmah. Chachmah is way above creation. Chachmah is still close to the infinity. It's the Shekhinah. It's the limited godliness that becomes the king and the source for everything that happens in creation. So that's where Torah Shabbat Peh is. Because what is Torah Shabbat Peh? The Torah Shabbat Peh is the oral Torah. Torah Shabbat Peh makes Torah, brings Torah down to become a guide for life. If you're only reading Bible studies, the Torah remains completely above you. You have certain sensitivities, you have certain refinements, but you don't know how to behave in this world. If you want to live your life according to Torah, and that's the beauty of the Jewish people, only the Jewish people have Torah Shabbat Peh. Because the Jewish people were the ones who were meant to apply the Torah completely to the world. The rest of the world has access to the Bible, but they can never really access it. It's really a mystery. You need Torah Shabbat Peh to interpret it. However, what did we say? That Torah Shabbat Peh, when Malchus, when it looks at Torah Shebiksav, when it looks at the written written Torah, what does it take from it? What does it take from it? Nibbles. It nibbles. Why? Because the song of Torah Shebiksav, the tune, the level of tamim, which is the trup, which is the highest level, the song, the notes, the song notes, Torah Shabbat Peh doesn't even touch that. Torah Shabbat Peh doesn't interpret that. Torah Shabbat Peh doesn't try to convey what that means. That remains completely outside of the range of Torah Shabbat Peh. Torah Shabbat Peh does not even try to crack the codes of the Nekudot. What they mean or give it remains a mystery. Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral Torah, does not even begin to explore the crowns. Besides Rabbi Akiva, we learned. And the Arizal, that when he went to sleep on Shabbos, we said he had a vision where he cracks. He goes into Torah to levels where he says, for me to tell you what I just learned, 80 years I would need to tell you 1 hour what I saw. That means he was in a different zone. He was seeing the Torah on levels that no one ever goes there, besides Rabbi Akiva and Arizal. To levels of other worlds, literally, beyond. And even the letters we learned. Torah Shabbat Peh doesn't even crack the codes of the letters. What then? The combination of letters, the words, once the letters combine and form sentences, that's when Torah Shabbat Peh tries to understand the sentences, and they try to explain sometimes. They notice in the sentences certain inconsistencies, certain hints and codes, and Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral Torah, extrapolates from that what is God's will. Like from the extra vav, here it says it like this. From here we learn out that it has to be like this, and not like that, and only like this, and only like that, like we were. So that's what Torah. Now last week we learned something, and that's the meaning of the second part of the pasuk. V'zarach miseir is referring to the drop from Keter to Chachma, that Hashem is coming through a hair. Va'asa merivavois kodesh means, the verse continues, va'asa, that he comes. And it's in translation of Targum, is he's further coming down from Rivavos Kodesh. Kodesh is what? Chachma is called Kodesh. Which Chachma? Chachma Vatzilos is called Kodesh. Transcendence, Kodesh. Keser is Kodesh HaKadoshim, Holy of Holy. But Chachma is called Kodesh. Beyond the world. That's why we said the four levels of Torah that is part of Kodesh is still beyond our range. And from there, he comes down. The most latter part of the letters is what land in the Mishnah, and we study in Shulchan Aruch and in Talmud and in Medrash, and everything we extrapolate. It's the dripping. It's the drip from as this drip down through these two diminishments, through these two powerful diminishments. Fine. Now, in another Gewalt, I said I'm not going to review, but that's what always happens. But it's good to do a review. But then he added one more very geschmack, very beautiful. He says that even the idea that the letters, remember we said how the Torah begins as a song, the revealed Torah, and then it becomes sounds, and the sounds become further diluted, and they become crowns, symbols, and from the symbols become letters. In order to show how nothing the letters of the Torah is compared to the Torah itself. When we say the Torah, I don't mean the source of Torah in Keser. I mean literally Torah as it is in Chachma, Torah Shebiksav. How, when we're looking at a Sefer Torah and we're seeing the letters, how we are seeing the tail end of it, we're really not seeing what's in that Torah. That's what we're saying. We're hardly seeing anything because we're only seeing those letters. To indicate how much that is, he gave an example, Gewalt. He says the letters are called earth. Now when you take a cup of water, in this water there is earth. Because in Mayim there is Eish, Mayim, Ruach, and Afar, the four. But you can't see any earth over here. But when you take a tea kettle and you look at the bottom of a tea kettle, what do you find? A lot of sediments, a lot of what is that? That's because when you cook water, what happens? The particles that are there of earth, whatever you'll call it, those minerals that are in the water become separated and they become identified. But how much of the water is it? What is, compared to the water, what is that? Nothing. That's what he says is the letters of the Torah. The letters of the Torah is when God puts the Torah through an enormous tzimtzum, an enormous contraction. The contraction is called Eish, fire. It cooks the Torah to allow, which means it contracts it like fire. It cooks it and finds the tiny little letters that start emerging and separates those letters that we can see it. And that's why it says, V'asam arivavos kaidesh. What is the next words? Miyaminoi eish das. From his right hand is the eish das. The fire cooks till we can have the Torah, the letters of the Torah. That's to reveal the letters. Now, Torah Shabbat Peh doesn't even know the letters. Torah Shabbat Peh, once there's letters, Torah Shabbat Peh reads those letters and doesn't even understand the nature of the letters themselves. It only understands the combination of those letters as they form sentences, and that's what Torah Shabbat Pez deals with. Because we can understand, in order for Hashem's Torah to come down into finite creation, even in the higher worlds, even in Gan Eden, let alone us down here when we study Torah. Gewalt. So this is the meaning that the Eved, the second drop, is that Eliezer says to Rivka, give me ma'at mayim, give me something of your, a little bit of Torah Shabbat Biksav, a tiny bit of it pours into Torah Shabbat Peh. Now he's going to say, Gewalt, but this is the Torah before we Jews elevate the Torah. But when we, as a result of our service and our things, we take Torah Shabbat Peh and we elevate it and we allow it to receive the essence of Torah Shabbat. That Torah Shabbat, that the written Torah should deliver to Torah Shabbat Peh, not just, in other words, should download what the Arizal saw into Torah Shabbat Peh. To download what Rabbi Akiva saw when he was reading the crowns. We increase the flow tremendously. We cause Eliezer to receive the entire bucket. The bucket should be poured over, not just ma'at mayim, but even more than that. We also enhance Torah Shebiksav, that it should not just receive a little ray of a ray through a little hair, but that the entire essence of the quintessential wisdom, Gewalt, the pre-intelligence of Keser, the Ein Sof of Keser, the infinity of Keser, the boundlessness of Keser, should become part of Torah Shebiksav, and that Torah Shebiksav should fully unload that into Torah Shabbat Peh. That's the next stage. And when do we do that? On Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. Because that's when we are bringing the Torah Shabbat Peh and the Torah Shebiksav together on a much deeper union. And in a small way, we can do that every day. In the general year, it's Simchas Torah and Shmini Atzeres. That's what we're going to learn now. But on a little way, it's when we learn Torah after we pray, and we pray with all of our heart and soul. Then the Torah that we learn after prayer is not a diluted, but rather inside our Torah we get everything. Because we caused, as a result of our Mesirat Nefesh in prayer, which is our total surrender and to God, we cause Yechudim. And Yechudim means marriages. So, to just give you a little preview so that we can understand what we're saying, this whole order that he spoke about, which there is a powerful tzimtzum and a powerful diminution of dimming it and literally dropping a droplet to in order to pass on the energy from the infinite to the Torah Shebiksav, and then from Torah Shebiksav to Torah Shabbat Peh, that is considered engagement, where the chasen or betrothal between the groom and the bride. The Torah Shebiksav, the written Torah, is the groom. Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral Torah, is the bride, just like the woman receives from the man. But when they become married initially, before they have intimacy with each other, then what does he give to her? He gives her just a ring. The ring means he's giving her a tiny little bit, and he's going to add something. See, you learn, even though we learned these concepts, we learned in a mimer last year. We mamish learned this discourse in the Alter Rebbe's mimer. But there is news over here. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of beautiful nuances that Tzemach Tzedek is adding. So over there we learned the fact that he only gives a ring, which means he's giving a little bit. But also the idea that according to halacha, you don't have to spend you would think that if you're getting married to a wife, you should give her your fortune. You have to give her a diamond. You have to pay at least, half of your wealth, because you're talking about you're getting married. No, the law is you can betroth a woman with the minimal amount of a pruta. A pruta's value today, I don't know, maybe 50 cents. Nothing. You don't have to give a gold ring. If the woman agrees, 50 cents, it's not even $1, you're ready, it's ready the value of a pruta, it's done. Maybe even a quarter. I'm not exactly sure what is today considered shava pruta. I'm not exactly sure. With inflation, I don't know, maybe it needs to be a little more. But that's about it. Which means, it indicates that what he gives to her in order to establish them being a couple is just a minuscule. And that's what we were saying now, that Torah Shebiksav delivers to Torah Shebalpeh just a tiny bit. But then later, once they're husband and wife fully, and they're in love with each other, then he's not just going to give her a 50 cents, she's going to get all of him. And that is expressed in the intimacy because he's giving her himself. When he gives her himself, he's giving her his wallet too. He better. Everything. She takes him all. But here's the thing. In an intimacy, he's going to explain, not only does she take his conscious self, she takes his superconscious self. In other words, when he gives himself to her, he's not giving just his body and his soul or his entire attention, or he share with her his intelligence or give her everything about himself. He's even pulling from his pre-self. Why? Because when you're creating a child, because through an intimacy, what happens? There is a passing of fluid from him to her, and when he's giving that to her, where is he pulling from? He's pulling from, because the child that's going to be born, if there's a pregnancy from it, what's going to be born? A child who doesn't only have an intelligence, but also has a pre-intelligence, who can create intelligence. Where did he get that? The father then must have taken a piece of his quintessential self. So the father didn't only give his chachma, his revealed powers, the father gave his keser too. The father gave his moyach stima, his concealed mochen, not just his revealed intelligence. But who is he giving it to? He's giving it to his wife. Which means she's receiving in a yichud, he's not just downloading to her. See, when he betrothed her, all he gave her was a 50 cents. And that's enough for betrothal. But yichud, now you get to see how much richer a yichud means versus just the natural flow to establish the bond. And he wants to show a gewalt how much greater Torah Shebaal Peh can become. And the reason why Hasidim went to a Rebbe to hear Torah wasn't enough to, just to learn Torah by your Rosh Hashiva. Because a Rebbe is someone who can achieve the Yichudim. A Rebbe, a tzaddik, super souls. They're the ones who can establish and unify the spheros above. So when the Torah you're hearing from him is not just, it's not just another, a little deeper, it's not. You're hearing Ein Sof. What do you think the students of the Maggid went to the Maggid? You think they didn't know how to learn? The Alter Rebbe wasn't the genius, didn't know how to learn? He couldn't go to another Vilna Gaon, because the Vilna Gaon, he will have more of what he has. Yes, the Vilna Gaon was brilliant. He would have more lumdis, more this and that. But not Yechudim. To get or Ein Sof, to get the Torah as it is, for that he has to go to a Rebbe, he has to go to a Baal Shem Tov, he has to go to tzaddikim whose souls soar into the Ein Sof. And we're going to see soon, they call the banim children, the very high super souls who are able to make Yechudim, who are able to make Simchas Torah, who are able to make Shmini Atzeres, who is able to cause a zivug above, a unification. And when the unification happens, then the transmission that flows from the pre-intelligence into the Torah, into the Torah Shebiksav. In other words, the Torah Shebiksav, the written Torah, exponentially grows. That's why we're going to see that on Simchas Torah, it's not only Jews are happy with the Torah itself is exploding from joy. Because what's the Torah that we're holding? What's our Torah when we hold a Sefer Torah? That's the Torah of Chachma. Because the letters are on it, the words are in it. It's not the pre, because the pre-Chachma has no letters, so So the Torah we're holding is a level of Chachma. But when we download the Chachma Stima, the hidden Chachma into Chachma, that's an upgrade to the Torah. That's why the Torah is dancing. Because the Torah Shebeksav now, the written Torah, has exponentially expanded. But he doesn't leave his wife out of it. He takes that very infinite expansion and he transmits that to her. So she too receives it. How can she possibly receive that? She becomes infinitely expansive. And the way they both achieve that is because they both go under a chuppah. The groom and the bride go under a chuppah, as he's going to explain over here. Okay, so let's read it inside. We're holding chapter number 4, Dalet. V'hinei mavur, it has been explained. I don't know what the word demaisa over here is. As I told of you before, in this mimer, there are so many printing mistakes that it's hard to learn the discourse. And I made so many footnotes on the side with tikkunim, which when they reprint this, I should send it to them. Because it's really, sometimes the words don't make any sense at all, the connections, and you can see that there's a lot of typos, things missing, anyways. V'nei mavur, I don't know what the maisa. So I would even leave out the word. V'nei mavur, the Torah shebiksav, the Torah shebal peh, nikra chasen v'kala. That makes sense. It is explained in other places. The Torah shebiksav, that the written Torah, the Torah shebal peh, and the oral Torah are called husband and wife, or groom and bride. If that's the case, so the word maisa I don't know. V'chol anal, and therefore, everything that we learned earlier of how one is derived from the other, zeu b'chinas kedushin. This is the way husband and wife become. Technically, halachically, they become husband and wife. It's through an act of him giving to her. And that is called kedushin. What's kedushin? Kedushin is betrothal. Ve'erusin, or sometimes kedushin is the action that he is mekadesher, he gives her a coin. The state of existence that happens to the bride after she receives the kedushin is that she's in a state of erusin. She becomes an arusa. An arusa means she's technically his wife, but they're not allowed to live together yet. But she's already a full-fledged Eshes Ish. She's a full-fledged married woman. K'moi, but, and. K'moi she kedushin em afilu b'shava pruta. And just like kedushin, the act of betrothal, is even with just a shava pruta, even just with a with the value of a pruta, which is, as we said before, maybe 50 cents. Pruta was a copper coin, which was the smallest coin, I think, of the least value that was used in the time of rabbinic, of the sages of the Mishnah. So what was it? It was a copper coin. It was value. I don't think it was a penny, but it wasn't much more. Maybe it was a penny then. I don't think a penny. Kach inyanam shacha kanal metorah shebeksav, and so too the drawing from the written Torah. Shuraka ara ba'alma, which the written Torah is only a tiny little ray. Mimena, and when the Torah shebeksav delivers, when the written Torah delivers the Torah shebal peh, to marry Torah shebal peh, because again it's a chasen and a kala, a groom and a bride. What is it? Ma'at mayim. It's a tiny bit of water. Mekadech from the jug. Hanimshach l'Torah shebal peh. Ma'at mayim is the shava pruta, is the value of the pruta. That's the droplet. One little droplet he pours to her. And that little bit, it says over here, gimel kedushin, but I'm sure it's not a gimel. I'm sure it's a nun, and it's supposed to be nikra kedushin. It's an abbreviation of the word nikra. It is called kedushin. And I actually have fun when the writings are so full of mistakes, because it's part of my challenge to read it like 5 times and to try to figure out what kind of word could this mean when it would make sense. So and it makes sense that a gimel and a nun switches because they almost look the same, but gimel kedushin doesn't mean anything. But nikra kedushin is called kedushin, is something that would make sense over here. That's called kedushin. It's called betrothal. Avol, however, b'shmini atzeres, what happens on Shmini Atzeres? Shavuos we receive. So in other words, we might say like this: the Torah that we receive on Shavuot, by the giving of the Torah on the holiday of Shavuot, is the Torah when it goes through the dilution. From the Orein, so from Keser, V'zarach Miseir, Hashem shines through a hair. So it's already diluting one time. An enormous tzimtzum, an enormous contraction. And then Torah Shebeksav gives the Torah Shebalpeh. It's all part of the Shavuos Torah. But when the time we get to Shmini Atzeres, then since we did tshuva, and we're going to say mainly through the power of Baalei tshuva and the whole avod of elevating, of upward, through this whole element of coming so close to God, we suddenly uplift the Torah exponentially. What do? We cause that Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebapeh should not just be engaged to each other, but they should be fully married, and there should be a full yichud. And when there's a yichud, whatever he has, his entire being, he gives to her. When we make the joy of the Torah, it's a level. And then he says sha'achar hanesuyin. So what can that mean? So first I thought it means shebchinas hanesuyin. This is the element of marriage. But then I realized that no, it's the better word that's missing over here. Hu bchinas yichud sha'achar hanesuyin. It's the yichud that happens after nesuyin, which means it's the zivug. The zivug that happens, the intimacy that comes after the nesuyin. Over there, he's transmitting to her, but he's not giving her a little ring. He's giving her his everything. And that's the reason why we say, Hamshachas tipas. What do we say? No, it doesn't make any sense again. I have to fill in words over here. Tfilas geshem. I'm very proud that I figured that out. I'm sorry for being... It was a tough one. And that's the reason why we say, Tfilas geshem. We have to say, there's a bunch of words missing here. For sure, there's no question. And that's the reason why we say Tfilas geshem on Shmini Atzeres. Shehu, and you have to add another word. Tfilas geshem, shehu hamshachas tipas mad. Which Tfilas geshem, the prayer of, what do we say on Shmini Atzeres? We start praying for rain, because the whole summer we don't pray for rain. We start mentioning rain in the second blessing of Shmoneh Esrei, which the deeper meaning of rain means the fluids of intimacy. Geshem, it's that bond, it's that yichud on a mystical level. Geshem is that hamshacha of the husband to the wife. That's the Geshem. Shu hamshachas, according to Kabbalah, it's tipas mad. It's the tipa, it's the droplet of mad, means mayan duchrin, masculine water. It's the male waters. Now, where do we know? Why would we say that that's what rain is? Now, first of all, he says, what does that fluid create? It can cause impregnation, right? And then you create a child. What does rain do? It impregnates. The world becomes pregnant, and meaning with what? Everything grows. The earth can produce its fruits. Whatever grows is considered the fruits of the earth. These are the children of the earth. But the earth doesn't give anything until the rains come. The sky is the husband. The earth is the woman. The sky has intimacy with the earth. That's the Geshem. But so spiritually, the reason why on Shmini Atzeres we say Morida Geshem, because in all worlds, on the deepest mystical levels and the levels of the divine itself, there is a yichud between the male element of Hashem and the female element of God, as between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shekhinah, and between Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebalpeh, is now in a state of intimacy. Now, where do we see that rain is called? The sages say regarding rain, when can you make a bracha on rain? They used to make a blessing when it didn't rain in a while. And it rained, you made, I think, katova meitiv, blessing you would make. So the sages say, how much rain is enough? If there's a little drizzle, you can say already the bracha. No, you have to wait till mishayetze chasan likras kala, when the groom goes out to the bride, which the sages say what Rashi I think says is when it's raining, there's bubbles. When from below it starts raining enough, the puddles start creating bubbles, and the bubbles move one towards each other. And when the bubbles, because it's raining strongly, it's causing the bubbles to move. And I think that's what Rashi says means chasen. The chasen goes out towards the kala. The groom goes out towards. Why are the sages comparing the bubbles of rain to a chasen going to a kala? Because that's the essence of what rain really is. It's a bond between chasen and kala. Between groom and the Pirush Ba'arach, like explained in the Arach, what that means. So, on Shmini Atzeres, Torah Shebiksav is delivering to Torah Shebal Peh not just, like we said earlier, the osios, the very tail end of the osios, but it's delivering to Torah Shebal Peh, to the oral law, a massive download. Whatever Torah Shebiksav, in other words, as we said earlier, instead of Eliezer receiving a little droplet from Rivka, Hagmini no ma'at mayim, she pours him the entire bucket. Koidim yichud zeh. However, before this yichud, gavaldik, tzarich liyos chuppah, you need to have a chuppah. In order for she to be able to receive the enormity, in other words, in order for Malchut to be able to receive the same light that's shining in Chachma, where Chachma is still Ein Sof, and Malchut is considered the source of finite worlds. There is no equivalence. She's tiny and he's enormous. How can he and she even out? So they have to come under a chuppah. You know what a chuppah is? A chuppah, since they're both standing under one roof, in front of the chuppah, they're both nothing. In other words, chuppah is a revelation of Keter. When Keser is revealed, suddenly Chachma shrinks. The big, incredible, boundless Chachma, which is wisdom of Ain's, such incredible, but compared to the infinite potential that's higher than Chachma, Chachma feels just as insignificant like Malchus. And therefore, he can look eye to eye to her and feel that he can give her everything because she's no more small, because he's no more bigger than her, because in front of super big, he big and small are both equal. The highest point of Atzilus and the lowest point of Atzilus are absolutely equal in front of who? In front of the Ein Sof. And that's why they can be Mesiachim. And that's the secret of a chuppah in every marriage. The energy of a husband is much stronger because he represents masculine energy, which represents God's transcendental energy. A woman represents far more the immanence of God, the investment of God in the world, the more detailed divine energy. So how in the world can she receive from him? Not just a ring, good. And that's why, by the way, the Kedushin does not have to be done under a chuppah. And the way they used to do it in the olden days was the Kedushin, the betrothal, the giving of the ring was not under a chuppah. That doesn't require a chuppah, because that he can give her. That's not a problem. However, why do they need a chuppah? Till they don't have a chuppah, he's now allowed to bring her home to his house. They're now allowed to be intimate. Why? Because she will blow a fuse. Of course, on the most physical, earthy level, people don't even get married and they have whatever intimacy. But that's just an animal act. But because cows also do that. But we're talking on a deep spiritual level. He can completely crash her. So therefore, in order for the yichud to happen on a soul level, where there's real energy being transmitted, There can only be when they both go under a chuppah. Tzarech li is chuppah. V'hu. What is that? Oh, and that means aliyas Torah shebiksav. Both the Torah shebiksav and the Torah shabal peh. Both of them are when a chassan and kala go under a chuppah. You know, it's a new visual that I have right now. When a chassan and kala step under the chuppah, we're watching it, and it's nice, and the flower girls are coming, and the grandma's coming, and we're singing, and everything is cute. But if we'd only see what the Baal Shem Tov saw when he looked at a chuppah, what? Suddenly, she and her are like on an elevator, and they go up into the Ein Sof. They're suddenly above all worlds, facing the lights of Keser. That's what they're really going. They're suddenly whisked away into the infinite. That's what he says. Aliyas Torah shebeksav, the Torah shebeksav and the Torah shebal peh are then elevated b'pchina sovev kalam. They're elevated into the sovev, into the encompassing lights. Dikamei, which in front of him, chachma va'asiya shavin. Chachma, which is the highest point of Atzilus, and Malchus, which is the lowest, but even lower. Torah Shabbat Peh is not just Malchus. Torah Shabbat Peh is applicable where? In all worlds, all the way down to Olam Asiyah, all the way to our practical world. Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral Torah brings the Torah down into practical detail of detailed physical life. So Asiyah and Chachma are in front of Keser. Asiyah and Chachma are even. And that's why on Regalim we say, on Shalosh Regalim, which the general idea of the holidays, of the 3 pilgrimage holidays, what do we say? The concept of a holiday is these yechudim, these unions. That's why we say Vahasi Einu. What does that mean? Vahasi Einu, marry us. In other words, bring us to a level of Nisuyin. Not on the holiday during the rest of the year. We're in a state of Kedushin, betrothal. Now, let's understand something. The real Yichud, in a revealed way, that everything is going to be pumped into us, is going to be through the Torah of Mashiach. That's why it says that until Mashiach comes, in general, we're only in a state of Erusin. Chazal say, Bizman Hazeh, in our days, until Yemoisa Mashiach, the entire Torah we learn is only Eris, and that's why it says that our Torah that we learn now, Hevel, who is considered silly compared to the Torah of Mashiach, he's going to bring us the real download. Now we understand why, but that's when we look at the entire picture. But within our limited relationship with God that we have in the time of exile, we also have moments of zivug, moments of yechudim. And when is that? On Yom Tiv. And that's why we say, Vahasi Einu, marry us. Maloshe Nesuyin. Azai, and only then, once you have Nesuyin, you went under the chuppah, then there can be yichud zeh, you can have this yichud. Shuam Shachas Pnimius, which is the drawing down of the Pnimius. Pnimius means that he can transmit to her his essence, not only a little shava pruta, a little coin, a little 50 cents. V'lo ha'ara ba'alma, not just giving a ray of himself. K'moy ha'kedushin, which kedushin is considered only an external ray. Haniskaliya. So we do that on every Yom Tiv, but which Yom Tiv is it the most literally seen? Sukkot, because we sit under a chuppah. The sukkah is the chuppah that we sit under for 7 days. And when do we have the zivug? Shmini Atzeres. Simchas Torah. The inyan, and the idea is ki b'chinas hayichud al derech mashal. What is the yichud? But now he's going to explain, like we said earlier, it's not, according to this whole idea that we're just speaking about, the benefit of the yichud is not to him. The chassan is not getting anything. It's the kala, the bride is getting. For her, instead of getting a ray of her husband, she's getting his entire. He's downloading he's downloading himself. But the elevation is only to him. It's only to her, not to him. Now he's going to say, no. When he's going to have a yichud with her, it's going to elevate him also without an end. Why? Because Torah Shebiksav, the written Torah, what did we say, is also only a droplet of the pre-intelligence of God, of Chachma Stima. Right? It's only a droplet. Mizarach Miseir. Hashem comes down through a hair. It's only a tiny hair. So, but what happens? When there is a yichud, take a look. Why yichud derech mashul? Hu amshacha shalamayla mebchenas noivlois chachma shalamayla. What did we say Torah Shebiksav is? Torah Shebiksav, the written Torah, we said, is only noivlois chachma, is only tiny drippings of chachma. Drip, drip. The Sefer Yetzirah says, noivlois chachma, Torah. That Torah is only drippings, like fruit that fall from a tree. The main fruit, you're going to collect from the tree. You're going to pick it from the tree. There are some, like not the best fruit that fall down because no one cared to pick them. That's called noivlois. So the sages are saying that the chachma of God unpeccable, unknowable. But noivlois, only what drops down, that's Torah Shebiksav. That's the written Torah. Only noivlois. That's when there's no yichud. When there's a yichud, then it's not noivlois chachma. The Torah Shebiksav receives the essence of the pre-divine intelligence. Kiyim only mibchenas, we turn over the page. Kiyim mibchenas chachma shel mayla mamish, but rather receiving from the supernal chachma itself. The name of mayla, because we explained earlier. Masha nikra noivlois. Why is the Torah called novlos? Hulefi, that's because sheishavus hachachma datzilus hanikra Torah, that the coming about of chachma of atzilus, that's called hanikra Torah, that's called Torah. Chachma of atzilus is called Torah. Torah Shebiksav. Mechachma stima. Where does the revealed chachma come from? From the chachma of Keser, from chachma stima, from the hidden chachma. Hanikra chachma shelamayla. That's not called chachma. That's called chachma shelamayla, elevated chachma, the higher chachma. Huba, it emerges b'pchenas dilug gadol. It has to come through a tremendous leap. Mipchenas cyrus levad, only from the hairs, as we discussed earlier. V'loy memohus ve'etzem hachachma stima, and not from the substance and the essence of the hidden chachma. Valderech mashal ba'adam. What kind of analogy do we have by a person? Haseichel, our revealed intelligence, our knowledge that we know in our mind, our concepts, our ideas, legabe koyach haseichel, compared to the pre-intelligence that produces we don't even know what that is. We know we have that power, but we know that power is so much richer, because if a person really pumps their mind, if you really don't do anything else in your life, but are deeply concentrating and produce, you know what a person can produce? It's endless. So the power of pre-intelligence is so much more than the few little cups of knowledge that we pour into our head. It's considered something. It's considered something from nothing, which means the source. She'ein etzem koyach haseichel mizgala, because the essence of the power of the seichel is not revealed, only a ray of it, not the essence of it. V'nimshach klal, it's not drawn at all b'pchenas haseichel hamizgala, to the revealed intelligence. V'loy kamay haseichel lagabe hamidos. It's not like the way our intelligence flows into our emotions, because that's seder hishtalshalos. Remember we learned when intelligence flows into emotions, it's like a chain where one link goes into the other. In other words, one thing reveals itself. It's not like there is this unbridgeable gap between the intelligence and the emotions. Intellect and emotions converge with each other. There is a serious chunk of intelligence that flows in to become the soul of the emotions. But not so when it comes to the intelligence from the pre-intelligence. it's like the pre-intelligence remains completely above, and that's why it remains a mystery. What is it? And only, it's almost out of nowhere, it like pops an idea, but you don't know the source. That's called yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. The substance of the intelligence mislabish levadet amidos, to clarify the midos canal. That's usual. So usually, there is no way that we can. The only access we usually have to our pre-consciousness and our pre-intelligence is only through these hairs. Why? Because the way it usually works, whenever you're thinking about something and suddenly an idea flashes in your mind, that seichel that concept that now came into your mind, is only a ray from when we say a ray, we mean an external ray from your super intelligence, the pre-intelligence as we were calling it before. There's only one time when you can actually bring down a piece of your super intelligence, the very DNA of your super intelligence, not a ray of it. You know when? To create a child. However, when a person is having an intimacy and a union, which is the droplet ma'av that's coming from the father, it also comes from the brain. Even though on the one hand it's like, you can't compare it to a brainstorming session where you're brainstorming and you're coming up with deep ideas and phenomenal breakthroughs, brilliant revelations. But the brilliant revelations is spiritual in nature. It's high, it's abstract, it's not something you can, but it's only a ray. Now, however, the seminal drop that is drawn, even though it's physical, but in that physicality lies the essence of the soul's powers. It's enclosed in it, from the substance and the essence, of the power of the intelligence, and not just a ray, shaharei, because Yulad mimenu, it will be born from it, Vlad, a child, B'seichel amidas. In other words, what is it going to produce? It's going to produce it's not just going to produce a information. You say, oh, it's a lot of information. No, what is it going to produce? It's going to produce an entire human being who has a pre-intelligence, who's going to be able to produce intelligence, going to have the same abilities. That means that you're giving your child not just your chachma, bina, and das, and midos. You're giving your child your keser. You're giving your child your essence. So where you're drawing it, it's being drawn in that yichud. That will be similar to the father. So the father is transmitting not from his knowable self, but from his unknown self, from his very substance of being. And in the substance of the child will be the power of producing intelligence, just like the father. And therefore, it's not just a ray. Like when you came up, let it be the greatest brilliant idea, it's still not the essence. Einstein's theory of relativity, the most brilliant idea that is still used it's still only a ray of Einstein's brain. It's not the substance of it. Explained many places. And of them, Bebir Azaya Parshas Bereshis, Apostle Loite Veyesa Adam Levadoi, or Parshas Noach, or Parshas Balak, in Maimarim of Biurei Hazoyar, probably the Maimarim of Siddur, not of Siddur, of the Sefer Biurei Hazoyar, that I think some of them we learned even. And so will be understood the metaphor. Lamaila above. When we say the regular evolution of Torah, where Torah evolves, where we say that the hidden higher Torah wisdom of God, as it produces Torah, it's like from the fallen fruit. that fall off the tree, that's when there's no zivug. So then it's coming only from an external ray that's revealing itself in the revealed mind. That's like Hashem is brainstorming and revealing in his mind from his pre-intelligence. From beyond the seichel. That's only a ray. And this is what draws into, becomes the source of the written Torah, of the written Torah. And afterwards, and then a ray from this, nimshach b'Torah shebal peh. Only a ray from this is drawn to the oral Torah, as we start. Kanal ois daled, like we explained at length in chapter 4. V'zau nikra kedushin, and this is called only betrothal, where the groom is given to the bride only he himself is not in touch with his own essence, because he's only in touch with his conscious mind and his conscious intelligence and his emotions, his revealed self. And what is he giving to his bride? He's dating. He's sitting with her, talking to her about philosophy, what he likes, what he dislikes, and he's giving her a ring too. It's not. There's no substance of self, of a deeper essence that he's communicating to her. So v'zau nikra kedushin hamshacha. It is hamshacha mipchenas. Here it says gimel ayin. It's a mistake. It has to say hamshacha mepchenas ches ayin. Ches is chachma ilah. It's a hamshacha from the chachma ilah, not the gimel ilah. It's chachma ilah. Hanikra kodesh, that's called kodesh, because we know chachma ilah is called kodesh. Like we said earlier, va'asa mirivivas kodesh. Kamashakasa va'asa mirivivas kodesh. He's coming forth from kodesh, from chachma to malchus. But when there is a yichud between Chachma and Bina, or yichud of Chachma and Malchus, really, as we touched about, this droplet that he's giving, Nimsheches, is being drawn mepnimius mekoir hachachma. Not just is he giving to her suddenly everything he has, but he's giving more than what he has. He's giving from his super higher potential. Not even from his potential, but from the substance of his being, from his very self. Mipchinas makara chachma, from the source of chachma. Sheba moichen, that's in the moichen. Shuanikra moyach stima, which is called a hidden moyach. V'loi mipchinas noivlois. And he's not giving a ray of it, which is the dropping of it. Levad. Keniskal liel b'masha, like we said earlier in the example, in the metaphor. Allah, but here's a good question. How can he give it if he himself doesn't have it? How can Torah Shebiksav give to Torah Shebal Peh Chachma Stima, the essence of Chachma Stima, when Torah Shebiksav doesn't have it? Because the whole Torah Shebiksav only receives from a little ray. How in the world is he accessing Chachma Stima? How is Chachma accessing Keser lights? Which, as we said earlier, his only connection to Keser is through a tiny little hair follicle. He's hanging and nursing from a hair. How in the world is he going to get this, which is only a ray? How in the world is he going to take the essence of it? And that's his question. How can you give what you yourself don't have? Since the coming into being of the Torah Shebiksav, of the written Torah, Hanikra Chasen, which is called the groom, Hurak mepchenas noivlois chachma shalmaila, is only from the novel, only from what drops. Imkein eich shayach loimar. How can you say shahayichud nimshach mepnimi is chachma stima, that the yichud is coming from the essence of the chachma stima, of the hidden chachma? How can it be? Ache inyan, the idea is shazau inyan achopa. That's why the chachma, we said earlier that he and her have to hop onto the elevator, and they have to take him in. The chuppah raises him up into access that or Ein Sof. Shazau inyan chuppah. That's the chuppah shetzarech liyas koydem hayichud. The chuppah before the yichud, before the zivug, before the yichud. You know what that does? It opens up the groom to his super self, meaning his self that's not contained in vessels, expressed in his body. his super soul, bigger than consciousness, higher than any revealed revelation of, takes you up into the Ein Sof. So, and that's just like by us, chuppah opens us up to certain higher powers. The same as in the divine realms. The chuppah that happens, the chuppah is the canopy that the bride, that they go under, the marriage canopy, that metaphorically, as it refers to God, that too, on the levels of Chachma and Bina, it raises up the Chachma up into the Ein Sof and empowers or opens him up to accessing this, and only then can he actually have a zivug with her. Shetzarech li is koydem hayichud, shu sovev kol almin, which is the level of sovev. Sovev means beyond vessels, the encompassing lights. B'chinas keser shalamayla ma'achachma, the crown that's beyond chachma. V'az, and only then al yedei zeh nimshach gilui pnimius moyach stima b'torah shebeksav. Then the internal element of moyach stima can be revealed in Torah shebeksav. Hanikra chasn, that's called chasn. Umimenu, and from it, once it comes to him, the Torah Shebal Peh, it can go down into Torah Shebal Peh. He can then give it to her. And therefore, kadmu yemei hachag l'simchas Torah. That's why we can't have simchas Torah, because simchas Torah, he's giving it to her. It's the time of zivug, but he has to get it first. They both have to get it. In a sense, they both have. So together on Sukkot, where yemei hachag is the time when we're under the sovev kol almin. That's what the and he says more than that. The real chuppah really happens on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, because we do tshuva, and by Ne'ilah we're elevated. Why? Because in Yom Kippur, where do we go? We go to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Kodesh HaKadoshim is Keser, Sefer Kolon. Kodesh is Chachma. Kodesh HaKadoshim is Keser. We go into the Holy of Holies. We go into the place. And that's why we create that smoke. Smoke is also a chuppah. And that's the moment, that's the chuppah. And then what happens after the chuppah? Even before the chassan and kala go home, what happens? They need to have a meal. In other words, Sheva brachas. Not all 7 days, but there's already there is a festive meal. That's Sukkot. Sukkot is the festive meal of, which is still under the chuppah. It doesn't have to be technically under the chuppah, but it's still celebrating the chuppah, and only then can there be. So Yemei HaMishta Sha'achar HaChuppah, which is after the chuppah. V'nim shachem, and it's drawn down, oirois makifim, encompassing lights, mipchina sovev kol almin, from the sovev kol almin. And what else helps in addition to that? You want to draw these sovev kol almin lights. You want to draw the sukkah, which is sovev. You want to draw it down into pnimius, into your vessels. In other words, the groom needs to get access to it. He needs to pull it from his superconscious self into his consciousness. How do you do that? Through the lulav. The lulav and the daled minim take the sukkah. They take the transcendental powers of the sukkah, the 4 species that we take on sukkahs, and they bring it into our das. They das it. Das means to bring it into our experience. V'gam halulav, and that's why he says, v'gam halulav iminav, also the lulav and the other minim. You know what lulav and the daled minim is? Yud Kei Vav Kei. They correspond to the 4 letters of God name, and the 4 letters of God name are the channels through which you take a sovev light and you bring it down, you feed it through a compressor. The Yud Kei Vav Kei is like a compressor that can compress these super mega files and compress it, and compression is different than dilution. Diluting means it leaves it behind and only a tiny ray remains. Compressing means you grab the whole thing but you zip it and you compress it. And that's what Yud Kei Vav Kei does. The Yud Kei Vav Kei can take the sovev kalam. That's what the daled minim do. They take the sovev, the sukkah, they take this encompassing energies, compress it, and bring it down so that the groom now has it internalized and he can give it to her. Hamshachas hadas. It's called drawing das. Das means internal, internalizing something. And we know in a person, physically, a person cannot have intimacy when you're very young. Why? Because you don't have the das yet. It takes a child until they're a certain age cannot have physical intimacy. And that's why a child can't have a male that's not yet reaching a certain maturity age. According to the sages, you have to be 9 years old. That's the age when there is enough mature adolescence kind of growth that that a child can actually. But what does that mean? Because the idea of a zivug is to draw your super self, and to have access to that, you need to bring that down into das. Das is the power that pulls that down. It pulls we know that das is in the middle under keser. We have chachma on the right side, chesed on the right side, netzach on the right side. In the left side, you have bina, gevura, and hod. In the center, you have malchut, yisod, teferes, das, keser. It's all the middle. So because das is what can capture the pre-human and bring it down into an accessible experience, and then through Yesod, which Yesod and Das are connected, because the sages say a person cannot get physically excited without Das, without being mentally present, and that requires the Yesod to be directly influenced by the Das, which the Das plugs into the super self, which is the Keser, but a child doesn't have that. So the lulav helps you become. The lulav spiritually dasses you up. Once you have the das, you can then have the yichud with the malchus. It's really crazy. Ki katan eina moiled, the child can't give birth. Va'tipa nimsheches, and the droplet mibchinas adas comes from das dafka. How do we know that? That the intimacy and the fluid of the intimacy comes from das is because it says by Adam, v'yada Adam, that Adam knew his wife. And through that, then spiritually there can be the yichud when b'shmini atzeres on shmini atzeres. And it's interesting. That's why I'll give you. That's why when we shake the lulav every day in shul, and then we walk around the bima saying Ashana, what do we conclude? What's the last pasuk? And then we say Laman Das Kalam Haaretz. The last thing, and then we take out the Torah. We're done with the lulav, because the whole inyan of lulav is drawing that das down. In other words, to take the soviv kalalman, to take the encompassing super self, and reveal it into the consciousness. This is the pnimius. And that's what Shmini Atzeres is, that he draws to himself the essence, and then he takes his essence and he transmits it to her in this physical union, but also the spiritual union. And that's why not only is the oral Torah happy, but the written Torah is also happy, because the written Torah just had an unbelievable expansion. The Torah itself is rejoicing from this incredible gilui, from this incredible revelation. And based on this, we'll also understand Gamkein, Masha Amar Abba Binyamin, that which Abba Binyamin said. Was a sage. His name was Abba Binyamin. I never heard his name other regarding this teaching. Maybe he has other teachings. I didn't learn the whole Torah, but this is the only teaching I recall from Abba Binyamin. And what does he say? He would say that he always strived that his prayer should be next to his bed. Al tfilasi, that is prayer, shetei smucha lemetasi, that my prayer should be right next to my bed. What does that mean? Umavur shal mepirish Rashi. Rashi explains that his idea was that the first thing he does in the morning is pray. That he should go straight from bed to prayer. And Rashi says, excluding what? Not excluding reading your emails or reading the news before you wake up in the morning before you pray or doing whatever. Or even going to the gym. He wanted his bed. It includes that you shouldn't even study Torah. So Rashi says, Shegam lilmoid loy ratza, even learning, he didn't want to study koydem atfila before prayer. Elo lispalol takef, only did that. But obviously, if it's the time for prayer, if you woke up at 2 a.m, you can't pray it. But if you woke up and it's already daytime and you can pray, so immediately from pray, for this you should go right to his. So the question is, what's that? Wait. Ubetoisves v'sharei poiskim. Toisves, that's what Rashi says. Tosfos has a question. Doesn't understand Rashi. In other words, Rashi's interpretation that the prayer should be next to my bed is that I shouldn't even study Torah. Tosfos objects to that. Tosfos says, what's wrong with learning before? What's wrong with learning before? You're allowed to learn before davening. Why would he not want? She'ena yedua, it's not no ma'u iser. What is the prohibition? Belimud koidim. I think you have to add the word ubetoises v'sharei poiskim makshim. I added it. They ask. Ask the question, what's the prohibition to learn before praying? Of course, if you, because of learning, you're going to miss the time of prayer, that's a prohibition. You're not allowed to. If you know you're not allowed to learn and not pray. But if you have enough time still, what's wrong? If you study before. Avo be'emes, in truth, and maybe Tosfos has a different explanation of what he meant when he said, my prayer should be next to my bed. I don't know. I didn't look up the Gemara, so I don't know. Be interesting to look it up. Avo be'emes, in truth, the Tzemach Tzedek over here in the Maimer says, ein ze shum iser, it's not a prohibition to learn before prayer. What Abba ben Yamin was saying is, I can have a Torah that has been diluted, and even then it's super special, but it's a droplet of a droplet of a droplet. Or I can have a Torah that's saturated with infinite light. That's potent that's got everything in it might be I'm learning a little bit, but in that little bit, it's got everything. Everything is concentrated in it. 2 different Torahs. I can have a Shavuos Torah, or I can have a Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah. I can have a Torah in which the whole connection is a connection of betrothal, or I can have a complete married Torah. In order for it to be a Torah saturated with the entire essence of the infinite, it needs to have that there was a yichud there was a zivug, there was a intimacy there before. The Torah Shebeksav got married to the Torah Shebal Peh. In order to create that, we said before, you need a chuppah, you need to access the soviv. In order for Torah Shebeksav to marry Torah Shebal Peh, and for Torah Shebeksav to first draw the essence that's beyond Torah Shebeksav, and then transmit that to her, it requires a chuppah, which means a revelation of the infinite light. How do you reveal that? In prayer. Because in prayer, we know mystically, he's going to explain it now. The elevation of sparks of holiness from our material engagement in the world, which causes us to pick up sparks that were buried in darkness since creation, and we extract it. In prayer, we upload it. That's what prayer is. Prayer is an uploading of sparks of holiness. We're uploading our energy. Torah is downloading. Prayer is uploading. We're uploading pieces of our existence and elevating it back into the divine. Only that causes such a thrill in God that God's pre-conscious self, what you might say, the infinite, the Ein Sof, reveals itself. In order for the revelation of Or Ein Sof of Keser, Keser is associated with divine pleasure. What gives God a kick and a thrill? Our uploads. When we take dark things in this world and upload it to Him, that's exhilarating to God. And that causes pleasure. And when that pleasure is revealed, that's when you have a revelation of Keser. That's when you can have a chuppah. And that's when you can have the groom having an intimacy with the bride, and then the Torah is a different Torah. So he had a choice. When he woke up in the morning, he's allowed to learn. But he said like this: if the time of prayer has arrived, let's get prayer done immediately so we can get it kicking on levels that we've never. We can get it to be, the water pressure of the Torah should be a million, billion, a gazillion times stronger than if it would be without it. The divine energy that's flowing in the very same Mishnah that he's going to learn, but it's everything. Avol b'emes, as he says, ein zeh shel musar, it's no prohibition. Ela shamayla se'esik b'Torah, the quality of studying Torah, she'achar tefillah, that's after prayer, who givo hayoser, is so much higher mitayra she'koydem tefillah than Torah that's before prayer. Im ma'acher zman tefillah, if it's after already the time of prayer. If it's before the time of prayer, you have no choice. But if you're pushing, or maybe if you're learning and you're pushing the prayer for later, that doesn't, because you're learning, that doesn't make any sense. You might as well put the prayer immediately. And then afterwards learn. And then your learning will be so much stronger. The Inyan and the idea is, the Afal Pishan is bar, even though but you'll say, hold it. This kind of union is only Shmini Atzeres. What does it have to do with every day? How can you? So he's going to say, no. There's a little bit of Simchas Torah every day. There's a little bit of, and that is, let's understand something. Why is Simchas Torah so powerful? Because it's after Yom Kippur. What did we do on Yom Kippur? We uploaded. Yom Kippur is the biggest. We uploaded the entire past year. All the sparks of holiness. Because that's what you're doing. All year long, you're involved. And then Yom Kippur, the 10 days of tshuva, we're returning to God. We're taking all of our peklach, everything we've done, all the mitzvahs we've done all year long, and when we do tshuva, when we do repentance, it's a powerful upload. So everything works in a manner of klolis and pratis. The klolis in general, we upload in Elul and Rosh Hashanah, the 10 days of tshuva, reaching the peak of the upload and Mesiras Nefesh on Yom Kippur. And then afterwards, that creates the Hizgalos, the revelation of Keter, of the crown, which is the chuppah, which enables the yichud to happen. That the download that happens afterwards, after the upload, is a whole different download. It's in general. But in a small little way, it happens every day after prayer. So we can really see it in three levels. In a small little way, because every day we can do an upload in prayer. Every day we have tshuva moment in prayer. We're uploading we're uploading yesterday. We're uploading all the mitzvot we did yesterday. We're uploading all the sparks of holiness that we gathered through eating and through livelihood, working for a living, through all the interactions that we have. We picked up pieces of energy, of fragmented pieces of energy that are distant from God, and we include it in the unity when we pray and we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. We upload it all into God. So then there is a download, and the download is so potent. That's in a small little way. Regarding the entire year, when is the time of uploading? Elul and Tishrei, primarily the 10 days of Tshuva. And primarily, where does it reach? It's Yom Kippur. And then the download on Simchas Torah. That's also general. But even a million times more general is when we look at the Jewish people as a whole and all the gathering of the sparks. When have we gathered all the sparks? That's in the end of the exile. When we took all of it. And now is the time when we're uploading it all. And Mashiach is what? Going to be the download of all of it. And that's going to be the ultimate yichud and marriage. So you see, everything is in a micro and a macro. In the micro, it's every day. In the sub-micro, or sub-macro, it's yearly. And in the sum totality, it's going to be in the time of Geula. And then is going to be the real intimacy in a revealed way. So you follow how it's stacked up one with the other. Even though we explain that the yichud happens on Shmini Atzeres, that's only in general. Because all the ratzai and shuv, ratzai means the uploading, the racing upwards, and shuv and returning downwards, bring hem klalius l'kol hashana. Because everything we do then on in the month of Tishrei, Tishrei is it's an inclusive month that includes the whole year. That's why it's called Tishrei, which has the word Rosh in it. Rosh means the head, just like the brain contains the whole year. Aval derech prat, but in a more specific, detailed level, noida b'priyetz chayim, it is known in the writings of Ari, shebetfila dechol yoim, that in the prayer of every day, hu p'chines hayichud dezuchre v'nikva. Every day we cause, in our prayer, we cause a zivug. We cause a marriage between male and female. Shehem p'chinas Torah shebeksav v'Torah shebal-peh. We cause the written Torah and the oral Torah to have a zivug, to have an intimacy. V'hainu al yedei kedimas, it's primarily through the Shema, and we know the whole prayer is all a preparation for the Shema. P'chinas b'chol me'odecha b'kriyas Shema. When we say by Shema, with all I love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, when you get to those words with all your might, that's when you're dissolving yourself in the Ein Sof. That's when you're releasing all the sparks upward. This is what creates pleasure above. This is what reveals. It causes the revelation of the supernal chuppah. As stated in the Siddur, before that we don't have a revelation of the Soviv Kalalman, so we can't go under a chuppah. We need this super godliness to reveal itself. B'Pirish ki al kol kavod chuppah. Where over there on that verse he explains this. V'yichud zeh mischadish b'chol yoyim. And every day we can do another sizzle to reveal the Soviv Kalalman through our prayer. Ki b'chol yoyim nasa adam beria chadasha. Because every day we're a new person, and as a result, and we're created today with the sparks of yesterday. And every day we can do a new, and we have a bunch of these sparks in our file, and then when we pray, we upload it. We upload it into the divine. And all the raising of feminine waters. The raising of feminine waters means that we are lifting sparks of holiness. From that which we collected, from the sparks that we collected from the klipa. From the klipa means from the shells of darkness of this world that trap these sparks. And how do we elevate it? Al yedei ma'odecha, through the ma'od, rishpei eish tehei gevurais, which is the flame. See, just like Torah is called water, it's flowing downward. Prayer is called fire, in which our fiery flames, our hei gevurais, our 5 powers of gevura, the opposite of the 5 powers of chesed that we spoke about this year, which are flowing downward, but the 5 powers of gevura that fire us up with yearning to God. Remember, we learned that the rooster, we once learned in a mimer, that the whole 5 gevuras start by the alarm clock above, that there is, that at midnight, Malach Gavriel takes a flame, a whip, and he smacks, and that's what causes the flare and the rooster's cry, cock-a-doodle-doo. That's not, they don't do it with willfully. It's because there is some kind of a whipping that causes these gevuras, which cause to wake us up and arouse within us a desire of of prayer, a desire of going out of our vessels, going out of our containers to dissolve in the Ein Sof. We once had a whole discussion about that. That's the reason why. If the time of prayer has arrived, and you don't pray, and you don't reveal the chuppah, and as a result of the chuppah, the yichud, because if there's no chuppah, there can't be a yichud. Ali imkain. If so, what kind of Torah are you going to have? You're going to have a very sterile Torah. It's not going to be a Torah that has a flow of the real essence of the divine. Imkain limudat Torah shaloi made, the Torah that you're going to learn, is only going to be the dropping of Chachma Shel Maila. Hanimshach b'Torah shebiksav. Only the external ray. First of all, the Torah, even the written Torah, is just going to be a very, very external ray from the Keter. B'tzad atzmai. And from there to Torah Shebal Peh is going to be even weaker. From there to the oral Torah, Memeno Torah Shebal Peh, b'Bchinas Kedushin. It's only going to be a betrothal, which maybe it's cold, it's not passionate, and there's no quintessential substance in it. But if before you study Torah, you preface it with the Shema and with prayer, and you created the Yichud, then the study of Torah that's afterwards, it's present and it's drawn in it the revelation of the substance of Chachma Shalmaila. Mamish, literally, v'loi noi v'lois levad, and not just droppings. V'zeu in oisik b'Torah lishma. And this is what it means to learn Torah for her sake. You're embellishing the Torah. You're enriching the Torah. You're elevating the Torah itself. If you're learning Torah without this, you're not enhancing the Torah. You're enhancing your own soul with godly light from the Torah. But here you're actually studying the Torah and imbuing the Torah and making the Torah so much brighter and richer than what it was. Pirish l'shem Torah atzma, for the sake of the Torah. And that's also the meaning of Baruchu b'Torah tchila. It says that God got upset and he destroyed, and the exile came about because the Jews did not bless the Torah. The deeper meaning is they didn't draw down the Ein Sof into the Torah. Simple meaning is they didn't say a blessing before they learned Torah. The deeper meaning, they didn't pump God's essence into the Torah. So the Torah they were learning was a very sterile Torah. There's a verse in Shir HaShirim where God says, Hashmi'eni es koilech, I want to hear your voice because your voice is pleasant. So he connects it, the voice of prayer, the voice of Shema, I want to hear. And then when you're going to learn Torah, she'oz yesh bay arivos, then it has an arivos, it has a certain sweetness, umesikus, and a sweetness. Gilui taino ge'elyon. There's a revelation of the supernal pleasure. Hamalubish b'chachma shalmaila, that is enclosed in the supernal chachma, ikenoida, as it is known. V'zeu inyan, and this is the idea of moired hageshem. This is what we mean when we say Shmini Atzeres. That's why in shul over here, we sell the geshem for so much money over here to open up, because that moment, it's like the Torah is like, boom! What happens at that moment? And opening up for that is like, I don't know if anybody would even want to stand over here because it would blow you out of the shul, how powerful it is. The drawing down of the geshem, that we start saying Shmini Atzeres, because the drawing of the geshem, of the rain, into the earth, that's like the zivug, the drawing of the tipa, the drop, just like from an intimacy and the droplet that comes forth, it creates a child. Kama geshem, so to the rain, merava es haaretz, quenches the earth. Vahilida, and the words that there's actually in scripture it uses that term. It says ki kashayere da geshem. We say it on We read it in the Haftorah of a fast day. Ki gasher hayered hageshem min hashamayim vehirva es haaretz, I think it says, and it satiates the earth, v'hailida, and makes it give birth. In other words, it impregnates the earth, v'hitzmicha, and then it grows. V'gam. So that's one reason why it's called rain. Why Moirid Hageshem? Because rain is also that essential delivery. V'gam, also, the Kamoisha Hageshem nimshach tipin tipin. When rain comes down, rain does not come like a pour. It's not like a flood of water suddenly. That would be too dangerous. Rain comes down, drops. But why does rain come down, drops? Because of the first reason. Because rain, in essence, is God, it's heaven giving its essence to us. It's pulling from its essence. Rain is not a ray. It's substance. Just like when a person gives their essence in a marital relationship, it comes as a drop. Why? Because essence can't reveal itself in a flow. It has to be delivered like in a potent drop, because it's so much of essence. It can only be like, here, take it. It can only be thrown. That's the idea of it. That's the reason why rain also comes tipin, drops, not in a pour, not in a flow. And that's because the reason why rain comes as drops is because it goes with gevura, and gevura is tzimtzum. It's contraction and release. Contraction and release. That's the idea of the drop. Shememena ba is chalkos. Because gevura comes because the revelation of essence to somebody else requires such gevura, and that causes the contraction and the revelation. Elechein nimshal hamatar, and that's why rain is also called like hair. In the idea that it's enormous, but it's different than the hair before. Before we spoke that the hair diluted. Hair is compact, compacting, but compacting the entire thing through because any giloi from Keser can only be through hair. Where do we find that rain is called hair? There's a verse in Hazinu which says Kiseirim alei desha, which means like little raindrops on grass. Kiseirim, you see, seirim is seyar, is here. Kamashakasav Kiseirim alei desha. By the way, that's also related to Esav in this week's parsha. It says the energy of Esav was from the Keser, from Oris to Toe. And that's why when he was born, he's born with these hairs. But because he's coming from such an intense place, he's a mess. Revelations from that place is that's why it can. The right setting is when you have Chachma. Yaakov is it. Yaakov has to harness Esav. But that's why Esav is so powerful, right, when it comes to the time of Mashiach, like we discussed in the Monday class. Yaakov needs Esav to go to the redemption, because Esau's got the real potent energies. There is a certain symbiosis that's created over here between Yaakov and Esav. But Esav is a man of hair. He's also red. It's very powerful. That's why the hair is also that way. The hair doesn't come in a mush. The hair, every hair follicle, every hair individually has its own, I don't know if it's called hair follicle. What's the hole from where the hair comes from? Its own. And even though the drawing of this droplet of masculine waters are now, they're coming from the very, very innermost Chachma Shalmayla of the supernal wisdom, It's above the droplets and the hair. So there's two things. There is the hair itself. The hair itself is a very, 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 very minute, diluted energy. That's hair plain. But when the essence comes through hair, that's what we're talking about. When there is a revelation of the essence, but it has to squeeze itself through a hair because there's no way it can come out any other way. Even though it's from above the hair, it comes down derech bechinas asaris. When we say earlier that generally Torah shabiksav, the written Torah, derives from the hair, that's the hair, just the hair itself, which has a little tiny bit of external brain energy that goes into the hair. It's just minuscule of minuscule. Here we're talking about the essence, but it's making its way into the framework of the cosmos, the framework of creation, which is so limited compared to the Ein Sof. There's no other way but to squeeze itself through the tube, and that's the gevuras of it. Mazel, that's the mazel, v'noitzer v'nake. Remember we said the two main here is the mazel called noitzer, and noitzer, if you change the letters, we said noitzer chesed. So noitzer, if you change the letters, it spells tzinor. Tzinor means a pipe. And nake, if you change the letters, spell the word kane. Kane means a tube. It's not coming from noitzer and nake. It's coming from above, but it's coming through the noitzer and the nake. Okay. We're going to leave it over here. I thought we might finish the mimer, but there's a lot still to do, so we'll leave it for next week. But Gewalt. Soon we're going to see what's so Gewaldig over here is, what's so awesome over here is, that Rivka herself she's above even Chachmas Tima. She's rooted in Atik Yomin together with Yitzchak. So that's the reason she's the one who goes down in the Eina, the spring, which is from where you draw the bucket. It says Rivka goes down to the spring. So where is she? That means the Keser, the Chachmas Tima, is below her. That's Rivka. So she has to go down to feed us the bucket and draw the bucket down and bring it into Seder Shtalshus. As we will see, the quintessential source of Yitzchak and Rivka. And why they're the ones who can only draw the Torah, not Avram and Sarah. Because it's related to what we're learning now, because a revelation from that place can only be through intense Gevura. Like the rains, Gevuras Keshamim. And that's Yitzchak and Rivka, which are on the side of Gevura, as opposed to Avram and Sarah, which is more expansive and flow, as opposed to points. Also related to the fact that in order to stimulate such a deep place, can only come from a rising energy, not through a flowing energy. In other words, it requires Yitzchak and Rivka that stimulate more like the Baal Tshuva versus the Tzaddik. We'll see, it's all connected next week. But as Hashem, we're going to complete the discourse. Awesome stuff.